I feel like when you see a guy like Brad go out there and just say, I am going to take probably the most difficult layups on this team. I'm going to drive. I'm going to slither in traffic. I'm going to go underneath. And he misses a decent amount of them because he takes some really tough shots. But when you see him do that, it feels like it kind of sets the tone. And I really love that from him.
Hank McCoy.
Was there anybody else in this game that you were considering as like, you know, that supplemental star, that X factor that kind of changed some things around? And you can include the big three since we are not giving any of these very prestigious usual awards. Stephen, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, sorry, microphone was off. Yeah, for me, I think it's Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is continuing to everything downhill and everything at a specific cadence that is a contrast to the tempo of play that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker operate at. And I think there's just so much value in Bradley Beal's presence, whether he's efficient in his scoring or not. Like we saw in the game against Oklahoma City from a little bit over a week ago now. He didn't score efficiently, but because he was just so downhill with everything, beating his man off the dribble every single time he touched it, there's just so much value in that. That gets a reaction out of the defense. And again, like we talked about, when the Suns have a defense in rotation, that's when they're at their best. They can do that pretty much whenever they want to. They just have to decide to do it with consistency. And Bradley Beal performing in the space that he's operating in over the last week or so is important for them going forward.
Aaron, we watched the game together, and a lot of the times Beal was driving to the rim, just like, oh yeah, nice take. A nice take. I personally, like, I think everybody who watches the Suns, who breaks down the Suns, knows that Beal's ability to get his head down and get to the rim opens up a lot, but it's still a nice change of pace. When you're watching the game, like, it still stands out a lot, does it not?
Yeah, I mean, even like the year we went to the finals and the year that we had like the best record in the league, like, we didn't have constant rim pressure like that. We were still a mid-range team, and it's good when you have lulls on offense and you're struggling, you have a guy that can really put pressure on the rim, and you would hope gets to the line. I mean, I don't think he got to the line that much today, but he's always putting pressure on you, and he's always trying to make you scramble by getting to the rim or get fouled or just constantly just pressuring you to get to the rim and starting the offense that way. So I think that Beal is always going to come through because when you're having lulls, he's going to try to get downhill regardless, and he's trying to make you make a call.
Yeah, he's definitely the most aggressive at getting to the paint. Book gets in that mode a lot of the times, especially when he gets a little bit upset, a little peeved off, but he'll still stay a little bit in that mid-range game more than Beal. But I want to talk about the big three because it was a really weird game from them. All of them, honestly. Beal was the most consistent, but Book did not score until about a couple minutes before halftime. He ended up actually being the leading scorer at 21 points. Kevin Durant didn't technically take a shot. He took one and got fouled. Didn't technically take a shot until the beginning of the second quarter. So I'll throw it kind of to you guys. You can start either on Booker or Durant, but Aaron, I'm gonna pass it right back. We're doing a little give and go right now. What was it about today's game that you think was just a little bit off from one of those guys?
It seemed like they were all waiting for the other one to take over in the first quarter. Like I said before the game, I thought Book was going to come out and be aggressive and just be the one to take over. But then KD was kind of taking a while, and they were kind of just like trying to see who was going to do it. And Beal was the only one that was like, all right, I'll do this. Like, I'll put pressure on the rim. I'll run the offense. I'll do all that stuff. And I think that was probably like my biggest issue was usually they find a pretty good balance early. Book loves first quarters. That's why he plays the entire first quarter most of the time. But it seemed like they were all just waiting for the other person to take over, and that was probably the weird thing, especially coming off such a tough L yesterday.
I mean, yeah, and like you said, they're coming off a tough L. They're coming off a back-to-back, so maybe you would expect energy to be a little bit lower, but I don't know if we've gotten through an entire first quarter where Kevin Durant does not have a field goal attempted on the stat sheet. And like, yeah, he got fouled, but at the same time, like this is Kevin Durant here. Like Kevin Durant should be coming out, and if it's not on Kevin Durant to go out and to get his shots right away, it's on the other guys, right? Like I remember, I think it was way back in one of the earlier Lakers game, maybe even one of the IST games or something like that, where KD reportedly went up to Book before the game and was like, stop looking for me.
Yeah.
Stop looking for me. Go be a killer, right? And then Book went out and he was a killer. And I understand that mindset, and I think the reason why guys like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker get along so well is because they both want to dominate, but they don't want to step on the game. And I think they were both trying not to step on the game. And then they were both out of their flows, though. And I think at that point, you need at least one of them, right? Like if it's not going to be Beal, who a lot of people say, he should be the point guard. If it's Book, which I believe he should be the primary ball handler. I know that Beal gets a lot of rim pressure, but as a facilitator, I like Devin Booker more. I need you to go out of your way if Kevin Durant does not have a shot and there's about 4 or 3 minutes left in the first quarter. Now you go up to him and you say, it's your time to be a killer. Like you are trying to play and blend into this game too much. And that's not like a bad thing for Kevin Durant, because usually some of the great scorers, the guys who could put up a bunch of shots in a game or hit a lot of shots in a game, aren't the ones that can blend in and be comfortable taking a back seat. Yeah. And that could be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. And tonight it was a bad thing. And I'm just hoping that one of them can kind of go out of the way and just say, step that up. Like, just, we need you right here, right now. And maybe it's Bradley Beal, because, Stephen, we've seen Bradley Beal, especially when he first came out, be the most outwardly vocal one of them in the media. So maybe it's on him to go out there and get these other guys set up. I don't know. It's kind of like a catch-22, who does what.
Yeah, I like when it's Brad that's setting the tone, which we saw prior to Booker coming back. Naturally, that put Bill in a position of initiating offense more and just his general usage going up. I think the tones when they set it a little different by getting Bill downhill, that's forcing teams to start the game off in rotation. Typically, teams are able to start with keeping their defensive shell intact. So if you're automatically starting the game and you're five seconds in and you're already in rotation, and now it's Kevin Durant, Grayson Allen, if it's Eric Gordon that's starting, if it's obviously Devin Booker on the floor, those guys are getting open looks early. And whether they're shooting those or they're playing to keep the advantage with a drive and of a closeout from there, that's just naturally putting them in a position to dictate to their opponents with the offensive side of things. And I think it just hits different when they start games that way. And, I mean, outside of the opening possession where they went to their flex action and I think Nurkic hit Beal for a layup to start the game, outside of that, the movement was a little bit of stagnant and just the general flow was stagnant because they weren't connected. And I think that's just kind of a little bit of what stemmed from that. I think we saw it in the Boston game, honestly. There was a lot of Bradley Beal rim pressure, paint pressure, getting up attempts, driving kicks, multiple driving kicks in one possession. That was missing early in the game in this one. And, they didn't really dictate the way that they, I guess, have grown accustomed to.
I think it's pretty easy to say that Bradley Beal most nights, he won't be the best player on the Suns. Now, he has the ability to. He has the ability to step up and drop 50 on any given night, but it just doesn't seem like in his role he's going to be the guy you're going in day out, be like, that's our best player. But, Aaron, do you feel like he's maybe the most important cog to that offense working, getting somebody downhill, getting somebody inside so that everything else can open up, so that those guys like Book and Durant can play more open and play more free?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it firsthand, like when shots aren't falling, especially from the older Suns when we had CP, like he wasn't at the stage where he's going to get layups and drive by you and do that. And Mikal wasn't ready to do that. He wasn't part of, like, in his career like that yet. And we know Book just wants to get in the middle and then kind of just roam and see when to make a decision and shoot the fadeaway. Like, I think having a guy that's constantly getting downhill fast and putting pressure on your bigs, like, that's really important later, and having him be the only person that's going to do that, that's going to come in handy later.
Yeah, and I do think that when you're playing basketball, and I know both of you play basketball, and both of you have played football too. I know Steven's a flag football legend over there. I see the tweets, Steven. I see the tweets. But when you play basketball with somebody, sometimes you kind of like play off of what your teammates are doing, right? Like if somebody comes out there and they're chucking up a lot of threes and you're shooting a lot of jump shots, like you might look at that and say like, I'm going to play more into that. Or you might go the complete opposite and say, I need to fill a different role. I feel like when you see a guy like Brad go out there and just say, I am going to take probably the most difficult layups on this team. I'm going to drive. I'm going to slither in traffic. I'm going to go underneath. And he misses a decent amount of them because he takes some really tough shots. But when you see him do that, it feels like it kind of sets the tone. And I really love that from him.